the moment you've all been waiting for. I'm about to share with you the top 10 albums of the year 2017 in my opinion. Now the year's completely over, so I figured this would be a good time to let you guys know what I liked, as well as 5 honorable mentions, because there was a lot of good music this year. I'm going to share it with you right after this. Now like I said, there's a lot of albums that came out this year that were very good. I'm going to tell you about 5 honorable mentions first, then we'll go into my top 10 list. If I have the record, I'll show you the record. If not, I'm either waiting for it or I just didn't buy it. First honorable mention, LCD Soundsystem, American Dream. Now, LCD Soundsystem is a band that I absolutely love. I think Sound of Silver is a seminal album that everybody should own or at least listen to. I was super stoked to hear that they were not totally breaking up like they said they would, and they were reuniting. There was going to be a new album, a new tour, all good stuff. The album came out. I wanted to love it. I didn't love it. It just wasn't what I was looking for from an LCD Soundsystem album. Now, that's not to say it's not great. James Murphy is just very talented at whatever he does, and there are some really good classic LCD songs on there. But for the most part, this one kind of sat on the shelf, figuratively and not literally, because I didn't even buy the record. Overall, solid album, worth a listen. Maybe not your cup of tea if you're not a super fan. I don't know. Buzz. Oh my god. Tyler, the Creator, Scum Flower Boy. I don't know if I should say the full name. Or as some like to call it, Flower Boy. It's a little more, PG. This is Tyler's return to form. As I mentioned when I talked about this earlier in the year, I was kind of let down by Wolf and by Cherry Bomb, so I kind of started to write Tyler off after a great beginning of his career. This won me back. This Tyler is a lot more mature, and he sheds a lot of the horrorcore and shock aspects of his music, and he just has a really nice sound, really great lyrics, and I had to pick it up on the B yellow vinyl. Look how pretty that is. St. Vincent's Mass Seduction. Same thing as LCD Soundsystem. I'm a huge fan of St. Vincent, and this album wasn't entirely a home run for me. Now, again, very good album. I enjoyed pretty much every song, some more than others, but it just didn't have the replay value, didn't really draw me back in like all of her other albums have in the past. I think I might be a little bitter that I pre-ordered this deluxe version, as I mentioned when I showed this off in the past, where it is not even a sleeve, it's just a poster inside of a PVC sleeve. It was like $50 on her website. I don't understand why you would do that, Annie. Why would you do like that? Thundercats, Drunk. This is a really, really good album. It's still sealed because it's done in a very impractical way for enjoying it on vinyl. Instead of doing a normal 1-2 disc LP, they did 4 10-inches on red vinyl, and I don't want to flip a record 8 times to enjoy it, so I got it for more of a collectible purpose, and I've been listening to it digitally a lot. This is a really nice, funky, soulful, jazzy album. He has great features on it, like Kendrick, and he gets some out-of-nowhere ones like Michael McDonald and Kenny Loggins. This is a really, really good album, and the best thing he's done to date, so definitely check it out if you're not familiar. And the final honorable mention goes to my boy, Sufjan Stevens, with the Greatest Gift mixtape. I said I was going to get this about 3 videos in a row for A-side, B-sides, and it got delayed a whole bunch of times, but finally I do own the outtakes, remixes, and demos from Carrie and Lowell. I love Carrie and Lowell so much, and the fact that I got more from those sessions, as well as some really good remixes, man, this is not quite an album, it is definitely a mixtape, but there's enough original material that I wanted to make sure it got on the honorable mention list. This is a must-own if you're a Sufjan fan, and it's also on colored vinyl. Alright, we've done it. We're at the top 10. This is my top 10 of the year. Hopefully you agree with some of them. Hopefully you learn about some great albums, and I'm going to hit you with them right now. Number 10, Cornelius, Mellow Waves. Cornelius is an artist from Japan, and the person that I can compare him to most from America is probably Beck. Still not a perfect comparison, but he does kind of art pop, indie rock kind of stuff. It's mostly in Japanese, but he has such a mastery of pop that doesn't matter if you can't speak Japanese. Every song is an absolute delight to listen to. His career spanned most of the mid-90s to the early 2000s, and this is his first album in a long time, so I wasn't sure what to expect. And this is honestly probably his best album yet. I'm not super familiar with his entire discography, I've only heard a couple of his previous outputs, but this album is pop brilliance. I promise, if you listen to this, you are going to be shocked at how much you like it. Cornelius, you are amazing, please don't stop making music. Number 9, Slow Dancing Society, 1-4, My Blue Heaven. Slow Dancing Society, I've talked about him recently as well, so if you've been watching this channel, you've hopefully been hip to his groove. But he does a lot of ambient stuff that is really, really pretty, really textured and beautiful, and his latest album decides to kind of shed that ambient nature and build on so many other genres that it never really gets comfortable throughout the album, as it just jumps at you with all of these really, really nice sounds. It goes from ambient straight into like jazzy hip-hop, and then some soul, some post-rocky elements, and even some plunderphonic-y stuff like the Avalanches. This album surprised me. I had no idea I would love it as much as I did, and it made my top 10 of the year, so it's definitely something you should give a listen to. There is still a vinyl available for sale on his Bandcamp, so I'd be remiss not to say buy it. Go. Do it. Number 8. Bedwetter, aka Lil Ugly Mane. Volume 1. Flick your tongue against your teeth and describe the present. I knew Chris was gonna laugh at that. This is not the Bedwetter album. This is Lil Ugly Mane 3-sided tape. It's a collection of beats and snippets of songs and little sketches of songs that he's had over the years. But when I bought this, I was surprised that side D contained the entire Bedwetter album, which is an alias of Lil Ugly Mane, as I mentioned. I did not expect it. It was a secret side listed on the website, and that was the best thing they could have done with it. The Bedwetter project is really, really good, underground, dark, twisted, emotional hip-hop, just like Oblivion Access, Lil Ugly Mane's last album. It's really dark and has some like serious lyricism that makes you think, very personal, introspective, and Bedwetter almost feels like a continuation of that. It's not the Lil Ugly Mane that's very bombastic and club rappy at times like his Mr. Thug Isolation project by any means, but this Bedwetter album is more of Oblivion Access, which is kind of what I wanted. It's Lil Ugly Mane at his most raw and his most intense, and this album is definitely worthy of anyone's top 10 list if they're a hip-hop fan. Number 7, A Cosmic Gift, A Journey to the Purple Planet. A Cosmic Gift is a band that consists of Brandon Berger, a wonderful drummer, and Richard Houghton, amazing guitarist. I've talked about Richard a lot on this channel. It's pretty obvious that I love his stuff. I think he's super talented. He has a lot of solo projects, and this is his band-based project that occasionally his wife Nicole gets in and does cello for. This is the first Cosmic Gift album that's not instrumental. Now, they do instrumental albums beautifully. The arrangements are otherworldly at times. But this time, they enlisted a whole bunch of vocalists throughout the album to give it this really nice texture that none of their previous albums have had. They go from the ethereal vocals of Grace Bugbee all the way to the vocoder vocals of Throwback Zach. It really transcends a lot of different genres vocally, and it works. Every song is excellent. This is an album that you need to put on your radar, and as of this video, it is not sold out on his Bandcamp, so go buy it now. Number 6, Mac DeMarco, This Old Dog. This is the alternate cover that the limited edition came with. It came with a cool poster and an ombre colored vinyl that was kind of a spectrum between this green, blue, yellow mix. I got just a plain yellow, which would have matched the original cover of this album, which is yellow and black, really nicely. Does not really match the cover I got, but that's okay, because I'm more about the music on this release. Mac is one of those artists that you can kind of jump into his catalog anywhere and you'll probably like what he does. He has that kind of Beatles psych pop element to him while being just really friendly and relatable, and you just want to like the guy, especially when you see him live. He's hilarious. But this album in particular might be his chillest and most personal album to date. He mastered the synthesizer on songs like On the Level, which is an R&B inspired jam, but the rest of it's just that signature chilled out folk, some of it psychedelic, some of it pretty traditional. I love this album. I think this is a different side of Mac than we've seen his entire career thus far, and it could be my favorite of all of his albums, which is hard to say because a lot of his albums are knockouts, so great job, Mac. Top 5, are you ready? Number 5, Milo, Who Told You to Think? With a bunch of question marks and exclamation marks. This album should not be slept on. Don't sleep on Milo. I didn't know about this dude until this year. He has had a bunch of albums under Milo, under his alias Scallops Hotel, and this album blew my mind when I first heard it. He spits with such confidence. You would think he's one of the top tier rappers like Kendrick and all those people that are just oozing that charisma. He is just an underground rapper that knows what the hell he's doing. His beats are super good, and his flow and his wordplay almost unrivaled. This guy has potential to rise to the top of the hip-hop game, and if he keeps releasing stuff like this, he's gonna be a household name by the end of next year. Mark my words. Number 4, King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, Polygondawandaland. If you don't know them by now, you probably don't watch this channel because I talk about them quite a bit, but they're Australian psych rockers that said they were going to release 5 albums this year. Right now I'm filming this video, it is 2-3 days before the end of the year. They haven't released 5 yet, but I can see them dropping it on the final day of the year because that's just the kind of band they are. The cool thing about this, and I won't go into it because I already have a whole video where I talk about this, The band for this fourth album, which happens to be the best one of the year, which is why it's so high on my list, they gave the rights to the fans, where you could make your own vinyl pressings however you wanted, do whatever you wanted to make it your own with their music. And I think that's an unprecedented, amazing thing for a band to do. I kind of went pre-order crazy. I think I have about 7 different copies with different cool styles and gimmicks pre-ordered, as well as the charity pressing that I worked with Vinyl Moon on to create that should be arriving early next year, and I'm really excited to see how that came out. The only one that's arrived so far, because it didn't require an actual pressing plant, is this copy by Pocket Cat Records. He pressed it on a Laserdisc. He cut grooves into a Laserdisc, and it has the album on it. Which is hilarious. I think there were like 25 copies of it. I have not listened to it yet, but apparently it plays perfectly fine. Probably doesn't sound great, but it was too novel not to own. So yeah, first of many. I'll probably do a video of all of the Polygon and Wonderlands when they arrive in, January, February of next year. But really, I want to just say about that album, it is the best one they've done this year in my opinion, and maybe my favorite of their whole discography. It blends all of the styles of sound they do, heavier stuff, more psychedelic stuff, some of their jazzier stuff. It all fuses so nicely, it doesn't go too far into any of the realms, and it kind of gives you a nice taste of everything. Super catchy, especially that single, Crumbling Castle, which I cannot get out of my head. Number 3, Julian Baker, Turn Out the Lights. I think Julian Baker is one of the most talented singer-songwriters currently making music. She is just able to spill her heart onto a track, and it doesn't feel forced or it doesn't make you uncomfortable. It's so relatable and charming and refreshing and just real compared to so much stuff out there that sounds so contrived and you just can't get behind it because it just sounds like they're forcing emotion that isn't really there. Julian is the opposite. She took what I loved about her first album, The Honesty, and she built on it with further instrumentation. It's more complex in the right ways. It doesn't feel overproduced by any means. This album is a gem. Albums like this don't really come out very often, and this is one that you need to listen to if you haven't yet. I was lucky enough, thanks to somebody who watched this channel and sold me their copy at cost, because I missed the actual drop, to get the purple and white splatter on clear, which was limited to 300 through the Matador website, which is the label it was released on. This is an album I really treasure. Some of the moments on some of those songs, the end of the song, she'll like scream and like it'll cut out all the instrumentation. It's just so powerful and almost brings you to tears. It really does. So Julian Baker, you rock. And number 2, The National, Sleep Well Beast. The National is my favorite band, so the fact that it's not number 1 maybe shocked some of you. Sleep Well Beast is an absolute masterpiece that took me a few listens to really understand why. The first listen of this album, it's so rich, dense, textured, and complex compared to a lot of their work, which already is all of those things. I really didn't love it on first listen. It was one of those things where I liked every song and it was a good listen and a couple standouts, but it wasn't like, wow, this is obviously album of the year. It took me a couple listens, especially with headphones, to hear all the nuances, the slight little instrumentation that hides in there that you have to just listen for, that adds so much richness to the album. This album is an absolute win for The National. They're experimenting with a lot of different things that aren't really prevalent on their previous albums, like electronic sounds, some math rocky signatures. They definitely take some chances, and I think they all pay off. Not to mention, this is coming from a point in their career where these guys are all very mature. They've lived very good lives, I'm assuming, being rock stars, but they also have families, and the lyricism really deals with that kind of dichotomy of growing up and having kids and stuff that maybe I can't necessarily relate to yet at my age, but I appreciate coming from a band that I've followed for over a decade. I got the limited version on blue vinyl, which matches the cover really nicely. And finally, my number 1 album of the year, The Kid, The Boy, The God, Kendrick Lamar. Kendrick's Damn is a masterpiece in hip-hop. Now, you could say the same about pretty much all of his albums of the past couple years. Starting with Good Kid, Mad City, going through To Pimp a Butterfly, Kendrick has not faltered as long as he's been in the mainstream, and this album is no different. I picked up the red version of this. Really nice, matches the art of the cover pretty nicely, and it came with a signed copy, which I have framed over there because they gave you 2 jackets, which was kind of generous of them. They didn't just sign this, which I guess was intended for you to frame it. I did it. This was one of those albums that is so complex and mysterious that every time I hear it, I find new things I like about it. Every time I hear it, I find different thoughts about different songs, it really is one of those evolving opinions that just keeps getting better and better. When I did my review of the album, I think I gave it like a 7.5 or an 8. At this point, having heard it a lot throughout the year, it's way up higher to a 9, maybe a 9.5. Not to mention, 2 of the songs on here are 2 of the best songs of the entire year. I mean, they all are. It's a great album. But DNA is one of the most aggressive and amazing Kendrick songs to date. And Love, featuring Zachary, I still don't know how to pronounce it, is so beautiful and so calming and just one of the most relaxing and ethereal hip-hop R&B songs I've ever heard. I don't know how they captured that sound, but I want more of that immediately. Kendrick's Damn is wonderful. It is my album of the year, and I hope it's one of yours too. If you heard this and you didn't like it, keep listening to it and give it more of a chance, because honestly, Kendrick's the man. Alright folks, there you have it. Those are my top 10 albums of the year. Now it's time for you to let me know what you think of my picks. Do you agree with them? Do you disagree with them? What albums did you love? I want to know what I missed out on. There's a lot that I didn't mention that I thought were very good, but I didn't want this video to be 30 minutes long, so I had to make some hard cuts. There were also some I just didn't have a chance to listen to, so if you comment one of those, I'll let you know. Quick thank you to our sponsor for this video, Vinyl Moon, the record club that simulates the feeling of getting a mixtape from your crush every month. I have a lot of awesome things planned for 2018. Hopefully you'll stick with me for them. Some more cool giveaways, some cool videos with some really interesting people, some weird, unique vinyl, and of course, lots of stuff about my record collection. So stick around. Thank you guys for all your support. Have a great 2018.